Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and I've got some more recent sales for vintage mint on card action figures. And I think we're starting at the Empire Strikes Back line of figures onto Return of the Jedi, Palatoy Trilogos, and I think Droids, and maybe an Ewok or two. I think all of these also were auctions. So very good kind of low-end number for the grade or ungraded, to give you an idea if you're looking for a particular character or card back. Just a, kind of a low end number. As we know, usually auctions go a little bit lower than buy it nows, and at least gives you a good target to aim for if you're looking for a particular character. All right, so let's dig in. We're going to start off with Gold Star Tech, and I think I've got some of his or her auctions sprinkled throughout here. They've just had so many awesome items for sale over the last couple of months that it's hard not to continue to show their auctions. All of their auctions start at $1, and it's mint on card, baggies, loose graded. I mean, you name it, they've got some really good stuff. So here was an AFA 75 41 back A survival kit offer for Luke X-Wing. This one was an unpunched example, clear blister, no price sticker, $586. I think that's a very good price for a Luke X-Wing. It seems like to me, I don't know what your feeling is, but ESB Luke X-Wings, they tend to be pretty expensive mint on card. And this was a 75, sold for under $6. I would have guessed, for an 80 grade or above, you're talking $800 to $1,000. So I thought this was appropriately discounted for a 75 grade, straight 75s for the sub scores. Not sure why the figure got a 75. That's the only negative I have about this particular seller, is that you don't get a lot of photos, but I have no idea why the figure got a 75 score, just given how clean it looked. But that's what they gave it. Next up was, I had two different R5D4s that sold. Unfortunately, I had both of them already, so I didn't bid on any of them. But this was an unpunched 41 back A survival kit offer. Really nice example. AFA 80. That one sold for $685. And then they also had an AFA 85 45 back Star Wars display arena. This was a punched example, clear blister, archival case. That one sold for $825. So good tight price range for some ESB variants for the R5D4, $685 to $825, depending on the card back and grade. Both of those were kind of within the range that I paid for both of mine. So I thought that was pretty fair deals there. Here was the debut card for the TIE Fighter palette, the 47 back. Free 4-LOM offer. It was a yellowed blister, ungraded, KB Toys, and it also did have, a punched example. So, that's, again, going back to what I said, you can only judge it on 3 photos, so it's really difficult if you don't have a good close-up of the blister. It looked okay to me. It was obviously yellowed, 250 or, sub 250 for that, for the debut card. I think that's probably a pretty fair deal. I tend to just guess that it's going to be a 75 grade unless you see some obvious creasing. There was some card wear, or card wave to it. I don't know if that's just reflections on the top of the card around the logo there. So I'm assuming that's reflections. That's what it looks like to me. But $241 for the debut card. It's usually an expensive character card back combination, and I thought that was a pretty fair deal. Here was an ungraded Return of the Jedi. This is the 77 back. I think it's the B with the Anakin offer for Walrus Man. Again, a yellowed blister on that. And this one was the Hong Kong. It was not the made in Spain example that you often do see for the 77 back Walrus Man. $278.57 on that one. And, again, these are not particularly examples that you have to get graded. Just, keep them in that sliding acrylic case. On to some Trilogos. There were a bunch of Trilogos that sold. First is the C-3PO with the removable limbs. Obviously, the netting was inside the plastic baggie, which you do see oftentimes, or most of the time, for the Trilogo. This was an unpunched KB Toys example. Blister had obvious issues, so it only sold for $177.50. Here was an EV99, last 17. It did have the £1 59 pence price sticker, Tesco 99 pence sticker, and then an X through it. So, you would get dinged by the grading company because of the ink cross through it, but they will grade it. It usually defaults to a 75 if there are no other major issues with the card back, which the card back did look clean otherwise. Blister was in super great condition. I think it gets to the 80 even with the X through it. I just think it's, the rest of it was such clean condition. The blister was just pretty much immaculate. 504.90, very good deal there. We've seen some higher grade examples, actually graded already sell for more than that. So I thought that was appropriately discounted as well. Here was the Sensor Scope R2D2. That one sold for $305. It did have a fairly pronounced crease at the top near the hang tab there that you can see. And I believe that CIB had an AFA 85 that sold for around $550 here recently. So again, some slight issues with the blister. Obviously the creasing on the card appropriately discounted again at $305. Here was the 21B medical droid on the Trilogo card back with the KB toys, 2 for $1, so 50 cents a piece for these. I think this one gets a 75 grade overall. Actually, maybe a 70. I didn't see that hole punch over in the top right-hand corner, so this one would default to a 70 grade because of that, I would guess. Maybe even less because of that hole punch. That's, not factory applied. Someone probably had it hanging on their wall, so that's going to hold back the score quite a bit. But again, this is a good example of one that you wouldn't bother grading. You would just check it off the box for your character run if you're into character runs, or in Trilogo runs like I am. 170.50 obviously is way below where the AFA 85 sold. I think it was around 700. CIB again had one that was an AFA 85. It was around $600 or $700, somewhere in that ballpark. So 170 was a good deal there. Again, not a perfect example. I'm just trying to show you some budget-friendly examples that sold here recently from Gold Star Tech, and this is a very budget-friendly one because of the obvious condition issues for Lando Skiff, and that one sold for $132.50. Higher grade AFA examples, you're going to set you back $250 to $350. Ungraded but gradable examples will set you back in that $200 to $250 range. So, if you're looking for like an AFA 80, for example, try to aim for sub $300. It's not a particularly hard one to find on the Trilogo card back. And I believe that was also the German Parker. You can see the longer hang tab there. We've talked about this recently, and it also has the brighter yellow back. So this is the German Parker example for Lando Skiff. Here was a graded AFA 80. I can't remember if I showed this in my last market update or not, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But this is a German Parker AT-AT Commander AFA 80, and that one sold for $246.50. Really good deal there, I think, for the AT-AT Commander. Next up was an ungraded but in very high grade. This is a gradable example, in my opinion. This is the Klaatu Skiff Guard outfit. Blister was in really good shape, as you can see there. One little tiny ding in the top right-hand corner. But overall, you can see the difference in the color, right? This is the Palatoy Trilogo. It's more of a faded, kind of darker tint to the yellow, and then the hang tab is a little bit shorter and stubbier. And, I think this one has a good chance at an 80 grade. The card score is probably a 75 because of the wear around the edges. But the blister score is an 80, figure 85. You got to figure that this one probably defaults back to an 80 overall grade. And I'm not saying you got to grade this. I'm just trying to give you some thought process as to what goes in my mind when I'm looking at certain items for sale that are ungraded. If it's an item that I want, and do I think it'll get a decent grade, then maybe I pull the trigger on it. But 175, one bid on that one. So only one bid, but 175 I think is very fair for what that is. Some very high grade examples from this seller. I think I bought from this seller before. I can't remember, but it was not Trilogos that I bought. I think it was either loose graded or just some baggies or something. But he had, or she had, some really nice high grade CAS graded Trilogos that all had blister support, which I actually appreciate, especially for maybe heavier figures, because they're going to bounce around inside some of those blisters that are longer like this. And during shipping, you always worry that the blister is going to crack. And I'm not saying that the blister support actually will prevent it from happening, but it's better than none. This was a CAS 90 Chief Chirpa. That one sold for $692. Big number on that one. That was an auction. Also had a CAS 90 Weequay with the blister support. That one sold for $510. And then the Reese was a CAS 90 Plus, and that one also sold for $510. Again, all very high grade examples from CAS, and I would think that they would hold their grade or maybe be a half a point or maybe a full point. Maybe this 90 plus defaults back to an 85 with AFA. Very tough to get anything above an 85 with AFA for any mint on card. And so maybe that drops down to an 85. I don't know. But this one, maybe that one drops down to an 85 or 85 plus. So I think that all those prices were certainly below what an AFA 90 sells for, right? We talked about that in one of my last videos, how the population report for Trilogos, especially in 90s and even in 85s, they're almost non-existent on the AFA population report. And so people bid those up. And we've seen some 85s and 90s, especially in some of the CIB auctions that have approached $1,000 or more, that, for fairly common characters on the Trilogos. And it's just because of the population report. People just know it's one of X, and it's very few of them out there. Next up, we had an 85 plus for Dengar. I thought this was a great price at $480. You could maybe make an argument it's a little bit overgraded. It had an obvious crease in the upper left by the blister, and then also some light litho issues right below the hang tab there. Nothing major, some light edge wear. I think it's a little overgraded. I could see maybe giving the card score an 80, blister 85, figure 85 for an overall 85. I don't think this is an 85 plus by any means, just based on the very small, minute issues. You can't give it an 85 if it has obvious obvious issues that you see on the card. You can't give it a card score of an 85. You can give it an 85 overall, I think, if the blister is really clean, which it appears to be. The figure is really clean, which it appears to be. But the card score, you can't give this one an 85. This is an 80 card score. So I think that this, if you crack this out and you submitted it to AFA, I bet this one gets an 80 plus or an 85 at best. So I just think it's a little overgraded, and that's probably what kept the price down. People aren't dumb. As long as you show the defects in the photos, which this seller did, it wasn't trying to hide anything. There's that little litho tear right there. It's not big. This crease is not big, but those are enough that AFA would not give it an 85, in my opinion. They give it an 80 for the card score, and which is what I think it is. You can see some also very tiny edge wear on the right-hand side. So again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not picking on CAS. I'm just trying to give you some reasoning as to maybe why this 85 plus only sold for $480, while the 85s and 90s that I just showed you earlier sold for more. That's just, again, my opinion on. Here was a Power of the Force AT-ST driver. This is one that we talk about all the time, how it usually stays clear blister. This one would look to be about a 75, maybe even a 70 plus, just given the wear around the hang tab there. $220, I think, is probably pretty fair there. It's got some other light issues on the back of the card there. Maybe, I don't know if that's on the card or on the acrylic case. It looks like it's on the card to me. I think the card score gets a 70 or 75. Blister probably gets the 85. Figure gets the 85. So it probably defaults back to a 75. That's my guess on that one. $220, I think, is very fair, though. Some Droids figures, and there were some hot ones here. Kia Mall is a very common one, $215.01. No big surprises there. The Uncle Gundy was graded AFA 80 plus, obviously with a yellowed blister. This was an unpunched US card. That one sold for $305. I thought that was a really good deal, given that we've seen some loose graded Uncle Gundys sell for that price. I think that was a very great, a really good deal, I think, for a mint on card one. In a high grade, too, 80 plus. And then here was a 75 grade Kenner Canada Droids R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber. So an overall 75, unpunched, just fairly moderate to light on the light end of the scale. And that's a beauty. I mean, beautiful straight card there. I would have paid every bit of $810 for that. I thought that was a really nice example. And then here's Sice From, which we all know how expensive this one is. It got the 70. All right, so card score of a 70, despite the litho tear there. Very, very faint crease by the hang tab. But it's Sice From, made in Mexico, so that blister does stay clear usually. 70, 85, 85, 285 subscores. It's going to, even though it defaulted back to a 70 as it should, 1276 is still a very fair deal. We've talked about this in my loose, complete, ungraded videos. There have been some loose, complete Sice Froms, ungraded, that have sold for this price or close to it, $1,100-$1,200. So $12.76 for a graded mint on card, even in fairly low grade 70. I think that's a good deal. And then finally, here was the Ewoks low grade, not a gradable specimen. You can see, my wife would say the same thing about me, by the way. I love you, but you're not a gradable specimen, John. This one did have some card creasing to the right of the hang tab. And I believe this is also a made in Mexico figure made in Mexico, as you can see right below the proof of purchase there. So that's, again, another figure. I think this and Wicket W. Warwick are both from the Ewoks line and made in Mexico, and they tend to stay clear blister. That one sold for $191. Higher grade examples I've seen go for $500, so I thought that was a pretty good deal there. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. Hope you found something that you're looking for to give you a price target to aim for as you're out there hunting. Please leave me a like if you enjoyed this video. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.